Today I want to talk about using Trello, but on your cell phone. Hello and welcome to In the Classroom, an educational podcast making teaching and learning more transparent. My name is Benjamin Stewart at benjaminlstewart.org. Today I want to talk about using Trello and show an example of how to use Trello on your cell phone. Before we get into today's topic, if you have any questions, insights, or if you're using Trello yourself and want to share those experiences, feel free to reach out to me on my Twitter handle at BNLEEZ. Or if you want to be part of the Discord community, you can find the link at my website at benjaminlstewart.org. Today I want to provide a short explanation, and I also created a video showing students who are taking courses with me this fall 2021 semester how to use Trello, what it looks like. And so I created this short podcast, and again, if you're interested in looking at the visual component, looking at the video and showing and seeing what it looks like specifically, then I would recommend going to the show notes for this podcast and checking out the video. Again, this was for students who are enrolled in classes with me this fall 2021 semester, and I wanted to kind of contrast what the experience will be on a mobile device versus what it likely will look like when you access Trello, access the same course content on your desktop computer. So without further ado, let's get right to it. For those of you who have class with me this fall 2021 semester, I want to spend a few minutes talking about Trello, looking at it from a cell phone. I know most of you will be accessing the course content in Trello using your cell phone. I have created a prior video and a prior podcast episode where I'm talking about Trello on a desktop computer, but today we're going to focus on the mobile device. It does look different in terms of the way that some of the information is organized, and I want to show you what that will look like. So I'm going to show you what this looks like on my Android device. So if you have an iPhone, it's going to be very similar. The functionality is basically the same. So the first thing you want to do is make sure you go in and install the app on your phone, and then we'll sign in. Remember to sign in using your Microsoft 365 Edu account. You certainly can create a personal account if you wish, but again, my suggestion would be to use your university account, since all the course content will be under a board that lists you as a member using your university email. So when you open up Trello, if you're not familiar with it, it will default by going to your boards. Now what I've done, I have a lot of boards here, so I have some that are starred, which appear at the top of the screen. If you're new to Trello, then you're more than likely only going to have one board or one class appear in your Trello app, and it should appear at the top. Now, each of these images that you see here, mine say discourse analysis, CAE, listening and speaking. These are what's called boards. Okay, so again, I have a board for each class. Okay, so this is my discourse analysis board. This is my communicative abilities in English board, and this is my listening and speaking board. So I'll show you an example in discourse analysis, but it's going to be very similar. It's going to work basically the same way regardless of which class you're taking with me this fall 2021 semester. You'll notice once you go into the board and you scroll from left to right, you'll see that we have separate lists. Each list represents a week. Now, because at the time of this recording, we're just getting started, you'll notice there's a lot of information that has not been populated, that has not been included yet. But you'll notice here in week one, these are going to be some of the activities that we're going to be completing. Now, within each list, there are what's called cards. So if you go into each card, you'll notice here generally there's a description along the top. You may see some labels. You'll see maybe a due date. You have some options here to vote, Now there's a checklist. Now some of this information you'll have access to and some you won't as observers of this Trello board, but you'll notice along the bottom where it says attachments, you'll see two types of attachments. The first type of attachment looks like a card. In fact, it is a card where if I click on this, or if you click on this, this will take you immediately to a different board in Trello. And so notice now I'm in an entirely different board, an entirely different card called Learner Expectations. If I scroll down, you'll notice that there's another Trello attachment that looks like a card that's called Getting Started. If I click on that, notice that that takes me back to the card called Getting Started. Now, if I scroll back just to show you kind of what's going on, in this same week, at the top, there's a card called Getting Started, and then towards the bottom, there's a card called Learner Expectations. So that's basically these two cards. There's a relationship between these. They're basically linked. Okay, so this will be, I think, a common thing in terms of how we're linking some of the cards. And as we get into the class and we're getting into different tasks and different types of exchanges and interactions, this will be, I think, a fairly common thing where some of these cards will be linked together, linked to each other. Now, you notice along the, if you scroll down a little bit lower under the Trello attachments, in this particular case, we have three different additional types of attachments. These essentially are links. And so if I were to click on this will just open up the browser and take me to the link for that card. So in this case, I have two links, one to Teacher Ease and one to Microsoft Teams. These are just links that I think are relevant for this particular activity that I have within this Trello card. The last thing we'll look at here, if we scroll all the way to the bottom, is called Learning Sequence. And this basically is a checklist of things that we're going to be doing that fall within this task that I have in this card. In this particular example, we have review syllabus, review technologies, and we'll have an online form that we'll complete for learner expectations. All right, so this will basically be the main sections that you'll be interested in, the attachments, if there are any, and the learner sequence that will describe the steps or the tasks that we'll be doing. And of course, along the top, I'll mention again that there typically will be a description that will describe kind of, or maybe even provide instructions as to what we're going to be doing for the particular task. So this is what it looks like in or on your phone. And I will say that Trello is a very good tool if you decide that if this is something that you feel comfortable with, if you know that you have a lot of tasks, a lot of assignments and activities, things that you need to do, whether it's part of your school life or your personal life, you can easily set up your own board, and it essentially works on what's called a Kanban system. And this is a very simple example where I have one list called Inbox, I have another list called To Do, I have another one called Pending, and then Done. So you can easily go in, let's say that you have some ideas that you're not sure yet when they're going to be due, but you can create your own card. And let's say that you open this up and you can give it, a description. You can provide your own labels. Okay, you can edit your labels and color code those as you wish. But you can assign a date. Let's say that you assign a date for today. And you go back and say, okay, this is actually something now that I'm going to be working on. You can click and drag and bring it over to the to-do list. Let's say you have completed the task and you're waiting, let's say, for a grade from the teacher, or maybe you're waiting for something to be completed from a teammate. You can move it over to the pending list, and then finally you'll bring it over to the done list when it's completed. The last thing you can do, you can leave those as long as you want in the done column, but over time you might accumulate a lot within this list. And so you can always go in, if you want this to be archived, click on the ellipsis, select archive. Now it doesn't appear anymore, but it does stay within the board. You can always go back and find it since it's been archived. It hasn't been deleted. You can always add lists as you wish, and of course you can always change the name of the list as you wish if you want to personalize this whatever makes sense to you. This is very versatile in that sense, but this is just a very general way that you can use Trello outside of our class, maybe that will help you organize some of your activities and your responsibilities. All right, so I think we'll stop there. If you do have any questions with using Trello or any questions in general related to technologies, make sure that you're reaching out to me. If you want to send me a private message, you can do so using the chat feature in Microsoft Teams. If you want to send a public question, you can do so by going into Microsoft Teams under the post section and post your public question. And that's very useful when you think that your question will be of use or of interest to some of your classmates as well. You've been listening to In the Classroom, an educational podcast making teaching and learning more transparent. Thanks for listening.